Join two powerful CXOs who have built and led billion-dollar retail brands. Bill Jordan, board member of Bhartiya Converge, former president of Designer Brands and DSW Designer Shoe Warehouse. In conversation with Julie Averill, author, former CIO of Lululemon and REI, as they discuss how the innovation mindset separates organizations that move fast from those that just talk about it.
Let's talk about India for a minute. Do they bring different perspectives to the business that helped you guys think about innovation differently?
So we opened in Bangalore, not because of a cost play, but because of talent.
We don't think about the customer, we think about something else that we're trying to accomplish.
The key, I think, for any company is keeping the decision makers close to the customer. We were going to take risks and we were going to have fun. That was just the mindset.
When you have 1.4 billion people, the amount of transactions that they process, I mean, we as retailers in the US, we gear up for that, but every day in India is Black Friday.
Yeah, that's so true. I saw this through Lululemon as we scaled from 2 to 10 billion. It was infectious to come into because we don't say no to anything. We can do anything.
A lot of times, stopping stuff was just as important as building a new muscle.
The leader needs to create the environment for innovation. So it's not a tops-down mandate, thou shalt innovate. There are some foundational things that you need to prioritize. And if you don't prioritize those foundational things, especially when you're growing like a rocket ship, that will bite you.
Welcome to the Great Build Podcast, where vision becomes reality. I'm your host, Bill Jordan, retired retail executive and board member of Bhartiya Converge. In this podcast, we sit down with leaders who are shaping how organizations think, build, and transform, where ambitious leaders share how they lead. In each episode, we will bring one conversation, one leader, one perspective, and one set of ideas that will change how you think about the challenges your organization is facing right now. In today's inaugural episode, I'm joined by someone who has led some of the most consequential transformations in modern retail, Julie Averill. Julie has spent 2 decades leading technology innovations across major retailers during periods of rapid growth, including 7 years as global CIO at Lululemon, helping it scale from 2 billion to over 10 billion globally. She's built teams across multiple countries and led through constant change. She's known for earning trust in high-stakes moments, making hard calls when the path isn't clear, and building organizations that hold up under pressure. She holds a bachelor's degree in computer science and an MBA. Today, she writes, speaks, and advises on technology and the human work behind transformation. And she's coming out with a book in June entitled Chief Impact Officer. Real transformation comes from human, not just artificial intelligence. Julie, welcome to the Great Build Podcast.
Thank you, Bill. That was quite the introduction.
So glad to have you. But let's jump right into the conversation. Today, I'd like to talk about what separates organizations that move fast from those who just talk about it. I mean, every company wants to innovate, but few organizations seem to move at the pace that they want to. I know I've experienced that in the past. And I'd like to start with your perspective on that gap between intention and execution.
Yeah, well, let's talk about what it feels like first to be in one of those companies that moves really fast. So I've been in startups, I've been in Lululemon early days, and I've been in large organizations that don't move as fast. I think when you walk in, your shoulders go down a little bit, right? You know that you're going to learn something. You know that the rules are the rules. You're not there to play politics or figure out who really makes the decision. You're there to create. And you've got people around you that have the same mindset. And so when you're really innovating, you're in a space where your creative and your technical ideas are free flowing. So take that, put that on hold. And then the opposite of that is when you're in an organization that doesn't make decisions clearly. Maybe there's a large chain of command. Maybe it's unclear. I've got a great idea, but how do I get this idea in front of the customer? The organizations that move fast, there's something about just this culture and this DNA, and also about how decisions are made. The key, I think, for any company, regardless of size, is keeping the decision makers close to the customer. Because when you innovate, you want to be able to observe what that experience is. You want to be able to come up with ideas. You want to be able to iterate. You want to move really fast on it. In organizations where that isn't true, that's where they move slow.
So do you think, Julie, that when you talk about being close to the customer, which I love, I think that's the right answer. When we're sitting in boardrooms or, creating strategy decks, we don't think about the customer. We think about something else that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and that's necessary, right? We have to, we need strategies. Companies run on strategies. But when you get down to like I think we're talking about like the speed of a company.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's the organizational behavior? What's the culture? What's the DNA like? I'll tell you, when I walked into Lululemon, so I came from REI, which was a co-op,
Yep.
right? Much different agenda, different culture. And there was a hunger and a pace at which Lululemon moved. They thought that they could do anything. It was infectious to come into, because all of a sudden it's like, why can't we do that? We don't say no to anything. We can do anything. So I came in as the CIO, and there was so many things happening. And I'll tell you, most of it were probably not the right thing, because they weren't the things that were really moving the needle on the customer. So I would try to stop them. But if they were a good idea, it would just pop up in another area. So putting a governance on that, which was where I came from, like we have to govern, was impossible. And so I had to change my mindset. Like, how do we enable this? How do we enable the right ideas so that they can become bigger instead of trying to govern?
So how is, as a leader and a leadership team, how do you get all of your teammates to buy in, not just your executive team, but everybody, through the ranks? Because you can have great ideas, and leadership team can have great ideas, but reality is most of that gets executed at a different level in the organization. So tell me about how you guys were able to accomplish that.
Yeah, that's such a good question. And you're right. It is the leader's job. The leader needs to create the environment for innovation. And I think that relies on a few things. Number one, psychological safety. You can't force your way to innovation. You have to create the environment for it. So it's not a tops down mandate, thou shalt innovate. It's creating this safety where people know that it's okay to take risks. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to learn from it and to move on, to say, I don't know. Psychological safety, I believe, it's infrastructure, right? It is it's what good teams run on. The leader's job is to hire people who want to work in this sort of environment. Not people who command and control, but people who really want to build together and create innovation. And so that's people who have a mindset of the business, especially in the age of AI today, right? Everything's AI. I disagree. There's always been really amazing technology. AI is really amazing technology, but you need to make it work for the company.
I agree with that. And I think, when I look back at my retail career, and this will apply to not just retail, but all industries, most of the biggest and most important innovations that have occurred are not technology based, right? It's not this technology that you can roll out, this new program or whatever that's going to change customer behavior. It's product, it's experience, it's these other things. And I think a lot of times that gets overlooked and put through a lens of technology is driving these things.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So in 2014, I was working at Nordstrom, and we had to do a really big back-end system where we replaced a core order management system. It literally was too heavy to be housed in the building anymore. Like, that's how old it was. We had to add disk space. It was just too heavy. So we had to upgrade to something more modern. Because we were aligned with the business, we realized that we had the opportunity to also enable the stores to become fulfillment locations. Here it is, this back-end system, and we enabled store fulfillment. We had no idea what it was going to do, but it ended up being transformational to the company, because all the inventory in all 100 stores all of a sudden became available to anyone who was shopping online. So turn increased. We took returns in the store. So customers shopping online came into the stores. Like, it was transformational to the company. That was an example of where technology enables, right? It's not about the technology. It's about what you're doing for the business, what you're doing for the customer. The customer got access to all the inventory across the entire company, not just what happened to be in the warehouse in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, but everywhere. So, and I saw this through Lululemon as we as we scaled from 2 to 10 billion. It wasn't about, did we go from on-prem to in cloud? Yes, we did.
Sure.
But we did that. No, we didn't talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We did that as we were delivering things for the company and helping the company grow.
Talk a little bit about how it felt to be on that rocket ship of growth, right? Going from 2 to 10 billion in 7 years. That's roughly $1 billion a year of top line growth. It's hard for me to fathom. If you think about when you were there in the early days from, the time you left, like how much changed and how did it feel?
It felt like we were always winning. Every end of the quarter, right? We just would beat expectations. So we expected to win. We expected to keep winning. There's momentum that comes with that when you are leading the pack. You're not playing defense, you're playing offense. Like there was more ideas than we could possibly create. As a technology organization, we were scaling from, small to very large.
Mm-hmm.
And so producing tons and tons of value for the business, but that still just barely put a dent in what the business had appetite to do. Mm-hmm. So it's fun to be a part of that. I feel like it was a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to have all the experiences that come with taking a company from 2 to 10. Mm-hmm. And, you do things as best you can at the moment. And then because the next year you're 2x what you just were, you're looking back like, oh, why'd I do it that way? Right. So you learn to get better at things. You learn to do things the right way the first time. But you don't always do that, right? You're still growing as fast as you possibly can.
Well, it sounds like culture is a big part of the innovative environment. So you talk about that culture of winning and how it feels. And I had a couple of times in my retail career where all the stars were aligning, right? Sales were going up, margins were going up, and it just felt great. And in those environments, you felt empowered to do more. You could take more risk. You could innovate. You wanted to win. It sounds like, that was an important part of the culture.
Yeah, for sure. And I felt like that was my job. My primary job was to create culture that would enable innovation at speed. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of work done with the leaders, right? Mm-hmm. How we lead, what are our values? And how do we live into our values? And if we don't live into our values, then we have conversations. Mm-hmm. And as I opened our tech hub in Bangalore, India, it was the same thing. I had worked with Indian partners for 2 decades. A lot of that is you hand off a body of work and you get it back. Mm-hmm. This was something different. We wanted to create an extension, a part of our global technology team, rich with culture from the very beginning, so that this was a partnership. This was just part of our delivery model. And so that required a lot of investment in culture. I spent a lot of time in Bangalore getting to know those leaders, letting them know this was a different kind of company. We were going to take risks and we were going to have fun and we were going to innovate. Yeah, truly an opportunity of a lifetime for me to be able to build that and really see what it's like when you have an organization that is safe, mm-hmm. that is creative, that has incredibly strong technologists that check their ego at the door, that want to participate in creating amazing things for a company that they really believe in.
Well, let's talk about India for a minute. And when I think about how you must have leaned into that organization as part of your own organization, but do you have examples of how using that team and your team in India help you guys innovate faster or differently, or do they bring different perspectives to the business that helped you guys think about innovation differently?
So we opened in Bangalore, not because of a cost play, but because of talent. We just simply couldn't hire the talent that we needed across Seattle and Vancouver. There just wasn't access. And so we opened from the beginning, knowing that we wanted to create a place that drove innovation at scale. That was just a mindset, right? So we took a couple of leaders who moved to India really had the culture, grew the team, hired amazing leaders. I would go over there and they would show me what they were involved in, and everything would just blow my mind, like so advanced. And they understood the business so well. And that was because the business leaders in, Vancouver, in Hong Kong, and wherever they were, would go to Bangalore and invest time with the team there so that they would understand the business. And so what that created was a team. This is before Lululemon was even talking about having stores in India, but we had a team that was as fully Lululemon as any other team on the planet.
Such an important piece. That's great, because they felt like they were part of the culture, and they felt like part of the team. And that, I'm sure, is in large part to your leadership and making them feel like part of the team, and not just placing them on an
We're
island.
part of the team. Yeah, critical part.
And I think about all the innovation too in India generally. The stat that I always share with my retail friends is every day is Black Friday in India. When you have 1.4 billion people, the amount of transactions that they process. I mean, we as retailers in the U.S. we gear up for that, but every day in India is Black Friday.
Yeah, that's so true.
So I'm going to take a quote from Hamilton here, the musical. You've been in the room where it happens, right? The room where these big decisions are getting made and what we're going to innovate in and what we're going to do. And what do you think the conversation in those rooms that leadership teams aren't having and they should when it comes to innovation? What are they missing as it relates to thinking about and therefore executing later on about innovation?
How decisions get made in the organization. You can't, in my opinion, set up a separate innovation team and put them off to the side and say, okay, you're the ones that innovate. I believe that innovation is a mindset and a culture that needs to be pervasive throughout the organization. And everyone should be responsible for innovation. And for that to happen, you have to be able to make decisions quickly. That's a great idea. Let's get that into production. I think what the leadership team should be talking about is how quickly we move. So much more important every day that we advance into the age of AI, where data is available on a real-time basis. We have to figure out, as large organizations, how to make decisions more quickly, how to say, what is it okay for us to be bad at? We can't be good at everything. So what is it okay for us to be bad at so that we can put our energy into those things where we really need to be amazing?
I know one of the challenges I always saw with leadership teams that I was part of is trying to prioritize what needs to get done, and which is a difficult thing because there are a lot of great ideas out there, and every person who represents a different discipline has their own idea of what's going to really be the thing that puts us over the top, your organization over the top. How are you guys able to help prioritize again, I think you guys probably had a lot of different ideas that were in the hopper. What was that, mechanism, or was it just getting together on a constant basis? How did you guys prioritize?
It was always hard because, like I said, the list of things that we wanted to do was 10x what we could do.
Yep.
And we were doing a lot. You can tie it to strategy. You can allocate money per department. There's all sorts of different ways to do it. But when it comes right down to it, what you have to do is you have to look out more than just, the next year, because there are some foundational things that you need to prioritize. And if you don't prioritize those foundational things, especially when you're growing like a rocket ship, that will bite you. So for us, it was product data. Right. We knew every year that our product data was distributed across the organization, and we needed to have one reliable, clean set of product data that everything else could be built on. And it was expensive. And it also required not just the technology, but the business leaders and all the business process changes. And so every year we said, we'll kick it down the year, 1 year. So it becomes like, okay, let's stop everything else, because now we really need to work on this initiative. Like balancing the important but not critical along with the things that are gonna really move the business is the hardest part of the job, especially when you have endless opportunities to do things that really are gonna move the business.
Yeah, I remember a lot of those conversations, and they were tough. They were loud and vocal, but great leadership teams find a way to have those conversations
Right.
and then agree and then move forward together. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a really big key.
Yeah.
I mean,
At the end of the day, that's what you have to come down to.
yeah. I mean,
Nobody's going to be happy, which probably means you
no,
arrived at
that
the right.
everybody that you did the right thing if nobody's
Yeah.
happy. I think you're hitting on a key theme here, Julie, which is in order to innovate successfully and to move fast, a lot of it falls on leadership. What
Absolutely.
decisions, how quickly you make decisions, how you communicate those decisions, how you live those decisions every day, how you inspire your associates or your employees to go out there and buy into and drive those decisions.
Right.
So if you were advising a team now, leadership team that wanted to build an innovation first culture, what would you suggest that they do? And what would you suggest they stop doing? Because I know in my career, a lot of times stopping stuff was just as important as building a new muscle.
You got to look at the DNA of the company.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think companies get really comfortable with the way that they've done things and think that that's the way to keep winning.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case anymore, right? You have to challenge how you've done things and reinvent them. There's so much white space out there right now for new business models, new ways of doing things. And so I would probably start by saying, all right, if we were going to build the business today, what would we do? What would it look like? Would we be organized the same way we are right now? Would we reach the customer the same way? Would we take our products to market the same way? And just think about what could be if you were a small company today with the tools and innovation available, right? What would you do? That's your competition, right? So your competition is doing that right now. Mm-hmm. Start with that and then say, okay, how do we get there? We have to get there by having this culture where it's okay to take risks, that we might disturb some things. I think one thing to do is you could put a team together, give them, fund them, and then see what antibiotics the organization throws at them to slow them down. Mm-hmm. You really got to think about how the organization works, how they, how far up the chain do decisions have to go? What happens when you get something wrong? Do we punish? Do we celebrate? Do we learn from it? That mindset. And then, of course, the culture to create this environment where you have those people that, like you talked about early in your career, being part of those organizations that are just hungry and creative. How do you create that?
Mm-hmm. Legacy in your company, whether it's legacy debt or legacy thinking is hard to overcome. So if you've had people, especially in larger corporation companies, and you've been around a long time, and this is how we do things, that stuff changes all the time. And, if I think about when I started my career, people didn't shop on the internet very much, right? And today it's a primary vehicle. And if we continue to think the way we did, that, hey, in my case, people walked into a shoe store to buy shoes, then you're going to fall behind really quickly.
Yeah. And I think it's really important as companies change. I've seen multiple companies do this, like, okay, something new is coming out. We're scared of it. We got to hire in new people who know that. So I think this is something that honestly happened at Nordstrom. Right. Amazon came in. Nordstrom was always known for customer service. Amazon redefined customer service. And so Nordstrom hired a lot of people from Amazon to speed things up, to innovate. And the thing that we have to be careful about in that environment is making sure we still hold on to what is true and special about the company. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And if you hire all external people, maybe they don't understand like what is at the root of really what makes this company special. And that's what a leadership team needs to do, right? They need to know, right, here is that core that we will never give up, that we will never change, and keep that true. Otherwise, you're just trying to create another version of a company that's going to be chasing where you used to be.
I think that's spot on. That's spot on. Are you open to going to a rapid fire round where I ask you a couple questions? One word answers, no overthinking. You ready?
One word is tough for me, but I'm going to try.
All right. One word to describe the future of work.
Fast.
The most overrated concept in business leadership today.
These are supposed to be fast, right? Efficiency.
One decision every CXO should make sooner rather than later.
How to, that's one word. Okay, Bill, now you're challenging me. Innovate.
I love it. A book that changed how you lead.
Forged in Crisis by Nancy Cohen.
Oh, I'll have to get that. What does the Great Build mean to you from a GCC's perspective?
Enablement, growth, empowerment.
One word that you would want the next generation of leaders to live by.
One word. Authenticity.
Ooh, very good. Very good. Well, Julie, this has been a great conversation, and I know our listeners are going to take a lot from it. So thank you for being so generous with your time and being our inaugural guest on the Great Build podcast.
Thank you so much. It was great. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And to our listeners, if this conversation sparks something for you, please share it with others who need to hear it, your friends and your colleagues. And keep a lookout for Julie's book, Chief Impact Officer, coming out in June 2026. So thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of The Great Build, the podcast where vision becomes reality.